Hello, everyone, and welcome to Afternoon Tea. I hope you guys are all having a super fantastic and amazing Friday. There are definitely some stories going around out there in the royal sphere. We have the story about Meghan Markle and the four women who allegedly will not let her fail. It almost feels like a four horsemen of the apocalypse kind of comparison. And it offers up, you could say, some interesting observations in this Daily Mail piece, which was obviously, I think, a Meghan Markle generated piece. Like she went to the Daily Mail after they did the other article with Allison talking about how things weren't going well. She's like, oh, no, no, no. I got these four women. They won't let me fail. And there's some interesting bits there. We also have, of course, Catherine heading out to Italy next week, which is going to be super exciting and amazing. We've actually had several royals actually in Italy recently. Queen Maxima and King Wilhelm Alexander went, Crown Princess Victoria went, and all sorts of things. We also have Prince Andrew getting attacked in Sandringham, or sorry, formerly Prince Andrew, and sort of what that means for, I would argue, some of the rhetoric I hear people using. Sorry, I'm going to adjust the camera just a smidge. Because while Andrew, yes, may be guilty of some crimes, he's not been convicted of anything. And I think we've seen a little bit too many people in the public sphere being targeted based on the rhetoric that people are using, and people thinking, well, if the government or society or whatever can't address the issue, I'm going to instead. I feel like we've heard a little bit too much of that. Oh, and I forgot about my light. Let's put the light on, y'all. Okay. We'll change the color too. So, anyways, and then I can also talk about some memories of the coronation. I don't know if I've done a full coronation sort of review video type of thing, because obviously it was a very, very long day. And by the time I got back to the hotel, I was done. So we can talk a little bit about that, because it was 3 years ago this week, a couple of days ago on Wednesday. I meant to share my picture of King Charles and Queen Camilla, but didn't quite get there. But yeah, so much going on, ladies and gentlemen. So much for sure. It's been a busy week. Because obviously I was in Sweden. Somebody asked, how was Sweden? I did see that. Leo asked that, how was Sweden? So Sweden was amazing. Honestly, especially the last day, I had the best weather ever. And it was really cool because the cherry blossoms were in bloom basically while I was there, and they were essentially dead when I left. So I arrived, especially there were two sides in a public park. One side was better in bloom than the other. So the better inside one, I walked inside it. It was awesome. So the next day, just fantastic. And then on the last day, everything had sort of died. So I felt like it was a really cool moment. It was just such a gorgeous, gorgeous day in Stockholm that last day. It was incredible. And I really enjoyed like the process of course, covering the royals in person. I wish I could do that all the time. That would actually be what I prefer to do all the time. So sort of the complications that we have here, like that's unfortunate, is that I focus more on commentary, because if I did reporting, like I can't totally do it because I'm not there, and I'd have to buy the video or use a bunch of other people's video, and that just seems a little bit unfair. And so I do what I can otherwise, because there's a lot of commentary out there to talk about. Obviously, within the next week, Chantal, I did see your emails come through, and I think I saw a couple others as well regarding the Dutch girls and their security risks. We can briefly cover that, although I do want to devote a whole video to it, because I really think it blows Harry and Meghan's security arguments out of the water, because all we have is something just very vague for Harry and Meghan, whereas Catherine Amalia is being very specifically targeted. Like there is a concerted effort to target her, and that just doesn't exist for Harry and Meghan. It just doesn't. The negative social media chatter does not result in, or does not mean that there's like some grand plan somewhere. Like that's just, people have the right not to like you. That's sort of the thing. The reality of this beast we call the internet is not everybody has to like you. But getting back to Sweden, it's always fun to get the press access, to be there, to cover them, especially the arrivals for lunch. I had a choice between the fly past and lunch at Stockholm City Hall because you couldn't do both because the timing was too tight. I chose the City Hall because I hadn't been there and I just thought that would be cooler. And it was a little bit, it would have been cool to see the fly past and obviously everybody out there, but at the same time, the the lunch was a little bit more intimate. So like it was just basically us and the us meaning the photographers and those sorts of things, videographers, and the royals arriving. And so, and then of course I saw Queen Sonia of Norway, her in the emerald tiara. And I do have to grab, like, I need to grab a little bit of the video I got from it because what I've been doing, guys, for this trip, which actually worked out really well. So many of you complimented me on the video I did of the Swedish royals arriving. And guys, it was literally my phone on top of my camera. I just had it recording. So that's why it's a little bit shaky, a little bit not as good as it should be. Because it was only me. And to be honest, if I leave something static, or if I'm going to go, oh, I need to move it this way and that, I just never end up doing it. It's just so much easier to put it on top of the camera. And so, like, that's what I did and worked out really, really well. And in other circumstances, it would have been a bit more challenging, but I did pretty well. Of course, you got to think too, guys, there is a lot of, it's hard to describe the chaos, to be quite honest. If you've never experienced it, it is unbelievably chaotic. Everybody wants their shot. Like literally, there was a point where it's like you had to run to get your place. But they're also telling us, don't run. But you also need to run. So it's I have so much more respect for the photographers than I did before, guys, and I would encourage you to as well. There are some events where you can kind of hang out a long time and kind of get a bunch of your pictures, but sometimes, guys, it's just this. You got to be Johnny on the spot. You got to get the shot. It's you have a bunch of other people around you, and you don't get everything you want. I'm not a particularly pushy or aggressive person. So in some ways I'm unsuited for this life because like some people are. I have been shoved. I have been shoved to get a shot. So and I understand why. They have bosses and deadlines and these sorts of things, which I don't really have in the same way. So I do try to be respectful of the fact that they really like the actual professionals do have different obligations than I do and different people like observing them in different ways. And so I get to do this for fun. This is bonus. Sometimes like I don't even make that much from the trips, but I love doing them. They are so fun. And it's so great not to be kind of stuck in this, constant Harry and Meghan cycle because people still want to talk about them. And there's just a lot of interesting things to discuss in terms of what certain things mean and these sorts of things. But when it comes to being on the ground, like I would prefer to be on the ground all the time. If I could be on the ground all the time, traveling around all the time to get the shots and those sorts of things, I would 100% do it. I would do it. You would get better and better. And it's you learn like really the royal photography is so specific. I'm not even sure really if there are ways you could mimic it here in the States. Some red carpets, yes, maybe, but royals move fast. They tend to not like they will stand there and pose for you in certain instances, but oftentimes they are moving and they move quickly because of security reasons and these sorts of things. I noticed that when I saw Catherine and William in Boston for the first time, and I was like, oh my gosh, they move. Like they're not going to stand there for 2 seconds and wait, like a minute and wave or 30 seconds or whatever. They are in and they are out. And you got to have the equipment. I hate to say it that way, but you do have to have like the best camera equipment to get the best stuff. Like in certain instances, no. And there's certain photographers who I think can do it without like having the huge, you know, apparatus that I do in terms of the equipment I've invested in, but they're very good, and so that they can get around it. I need good equipment because the good equipment is smarter than me. And so it tends to make up for my weaknesses in this, and there's so much going on with exposure and those sorts of things that people are sitting there, some of the people are sitting there constantly fiddling, and I don't know how they do it and trying to do 12 things at once. It's 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 insane. It's so, so insane. So, like, again, anytime you see guys royal pictures and stuff, especially, entering or exiting Westminster Abbey or in other circumstances where you can tell if you're watching the video, the royal's moving very quickly and you get, 10 to 15 great shots. Like those shots were taken within seconds. They are the best of the best. It's so cool to be part of when you are. But yeah, I definitely always feel like, oh, I need, like, what do I do? Like I should get better. But I'm hoping to one day, if I can keep doing this and keep investing, I want to get one of the really, really big lenses. And guys, those are not cheap. You're talking about five figures. You're talking about a car. That's what you're buying, is car, basically, in a lens. It's insane. It's insane. But I love doing it. And I think it's so cool because it allows me to offer something I think very different than, you could say, my competitors out there, that I am out there. And honestly, I have tens of thousands of pictures at this point, and I do need an assistant one day to go through and just catalog all the pictures, find the good ones. Sometimes you have to like blow them up and stuff. So there's just so much, so much I have on record. I don't have time to go through it all. I just like pick my favorites and like, here we go. But I'm sure there are more. I just need to spend some time and find them. There are lots and lots of them. But I just think that's fun to highlight because I think being on the ground is so different than just commentating outside it. And not everybody can do that, and not everybody wants to, and that's totally fine. But I find that being on the ground and being able to watch interactions and watch, people and kind of analyze things, because I do have a video I want to do about the Thailand Royals, which hopefully we'll get to next week. We may touch on it a little bit here just to kind of whet the appetite, but it's an interesting dynamic. I observed some very strange things, and I'm like, this is weird. This is not normal. But I did like tally it up. And I know some people will probably think this is dumb, but I have officially at this point seen over 80 royals in person and photographed them. And then from the major 10 reigning European houses that are still active, I've seen obviously the Brits, the Swedes, the Norwegian, the Danes, the Dutch, the Luxembourg, and Liechtenstein. So all I'm missing is the Spanish, the Belgians, and the Monaco Royals, and I would have seen all 10 reigning houses. So that is definitely the goal in the future, guys, is to see all 10 reigning houses, because that would be awesome. So anyways, we do have some super chats and things that came in here real quick, so we'll get to those. Lizzie B, thank you so much for the super chat. Said they're trying to do everything and achieving nothing. I love that quote you said in your video. I have always said that they can't multitask. They can't. And honestly, as well, guys, I want to cover so much more related to royals, but I just don't have the capacity to. And it's hard to kind of increase the bandwidth in that way. And Harry and Meghan, but what I've done is really establish that, hey, I can talk about royals. I know royals. I've gone and photographed them and seen them and been part of the kind of system, those sorts of things. So I've established sort of my credentials in the royal space. Now, if I was trying to do royalty, and obviously I do a bit of fashion as well, but if I was doing a fashion channel, a travel channel, a history channel, I mean, all those I kind of want to do, but if I was trying to do so many different things and so many different genres, I like nerd stuff too. So if I was doing a channel on TV shows and stuff like that, it would just be too much. And especially if I did that all at once. Because the thing is, and you tend to find this with pretty successful people, is they get really good at one thing first and then they branch out. You have to get really good at the one thing. So, like, you can take the Row, for example, which is Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen's brand. It started off with the search for the perfect t-shirt. And so the first thing they made was a t-shirt. And so they made that really well. So they had a small number of SKUs and then you build and build. And I guess Road Beauty does it the same way. I think it is. I think it's Road. They start off with a very small number of SKUs, still has a fairly small number, and just built by kind of refining all of those. And if you can establish yourself really well in one area, it lends itself to you branching out and being able to do more. The problem is Harry and Meghan were trying to do everything. Nothing connected. I've like nothing connects. I've mentioned this before. Like even the launch of With Love Meghan was totally bungled with As Ever because the As Ever should have been referenced in the show. She should have had a bunch of her products being used in the show, and like she didn't. And so we're having this. And last year it was like a vomit of brands because we have Meghan Sussex, the Duchess of Sussex. We have With Love Meghan, As Ever, American Riviera Orchard, Confessions of a Female Founder. Like there, it was like everything all at once, and that just doesn't really work. You need to like kind of divide things out just like a bit better. That way, you're not like just vomiting everything, and it's distracting too because you can't focus on the one thing you're good at. Like get that like if I was Meghan or if I was advising Meghan or if Meghan could take advice, what I would tell her is just get As Ever going. Don't do anything else. No trips to Australia. No discussions about how great a female founder you are. So you don't need to do a tour talking about your entrepreneurship when you've done one thing. Do the one thing of As Ever really well and get it to the point where it's dominating the market, and then you can do the other things. Like, focus on Instagram or whatever. Like, she should just be so laser focused on As Ever, and she's not. And I mean, part of the reason is it's failing. But I think part of the reason for the failure is that she hasn't been good. Sorry, guys, I'm looking up As Ever right now to see how the follow count is doing. Is that she hasn't really done well focusing on the brand. And that's why the Mother's Day collection didn't sell out. And she's back down now to like, she's 359 people away from dropping another 1,000 to 877,000. Like she's close again to dropping that. And so I think that'll just keep dropping and dropping and dropping because there's nothing, it's not offering anything good. And if she could just focus on that one thing, and Harry could find a real big boy job that's not going around and giving speeches or something like that because he's not particularly good at it. Like actually find a job you're good at and stick to that. They would be just so much better off. Carol gifted one Royal News Network membership. Why, thank you so much, Carol. And Carol also said, and thank you so much for the super chat, awesome photos of the garden party at Buckingham Palace with the Prince and Princess of Wales, Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, and Zara Tyndall hosting. That is absolutely fantastic. Yes, I've seen some of those pictures come through, but I've been kind of busy running errands today, so I haven't had a chance to overly focus. It's kind of weird because when you work from home and you work for yourself, like it's very convenient to go out during the day sometimes and do things because you don't have to deal with people who have gotten off work trying to do things. But at the same time, it's like, well, I miss things during the day. I don't know. So yeah. And I've gotten a bunch of stuff to get organized because you just see this small little portion. There is a wildly disorganized mess behind here that you cannot see. And you probably really don't want to see either. I also went to Barnes and Noble and got a bunch more books, which I can maybe share at the end. Angela, who has been a member for 30 months, says, I think Meghan regrets marrying Harry. I think she does in some ways. Honestly, part of it is that he's really dumb. I think she, like, I can't imagine having a conversation with the dude. And sometimes, like, I think he thinks he's smart and he's just really not. And so it really comes across. And it's just kind of sad. It's just really sad. My mom was actually watching not the body language guy, but a different body language guy. And she was like, he cannot give a speech. Look, he's rubbing his stomach as he's giving a speech. And it's like, oh my gosh. Like, yeah, he's kind of a lost poor soul. It's really kind of bad. right, Diz fan, thank you so much for the super chat. Said, what were your thoughts on the press coverage of King Charles's U.S. state visit? Was it typical for a tour, or just because of the Trump admiration? So that is a great question, interesting question. So, I mean, I just saw. I'm on perpetually, pretty much on X all the time, Twitter. That's where journalists live. That's where royals live. You know, if you like the news, Twitter is your place. And so I do hang out a lot on there. And there was just a ton of coverage. And the other aspect of that, which you mentioned there, not just Trump's admiration, but the Trump administration is very social media savvy in a way that other administrations generally are not. Or I mean, we don't have that much to really kind of go by in some ways. But Trump is very active on social media. He's very aware of optics and these sorts of things. And so we're constantly getting this deluge of information. And it seemed to go off really well. Camilla and Charles seem to be very, very well accepted. Buckingham Palace's social media could use a lot of work, to be honest. I think Catherine and Williams could use some work too. I like the new graphic they're doing for events, but we need more. We need a bit more. Again, I think the best at social media right now is the Danes by far. I think all the families should take notes of what the Danes are doing and mimic that in their own way. But yeah, it seems to be very positive, very good. Obviously, you did have, because I watch Elizabeth Holmes' Instagram, because she's appears to be quite liberal, and obviously there are detractors going, oh, Charles stuck it to Trump here, or what about the optics of this here? Is like, that's a little weird. Again, royals are above the politics, so where you see yourself on the political divide should not really reflect very much on the royal themselves. And again, it shows like the heavy bias in the media and these sorts of things, which is frustrating and colors what is obviously a very positive visit. It was a very positive tour. Obviously, as well, we did have the talk about Mondani, the mayor of New York, apparently wanting to ask back for the oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name of it now. It's a diamond that Queen Victoria received from one of the Indian provinces when they conquered it. I don't know if conquer is the right word, but they won the battle to kind of win over that region of India. And she was given this diamond, and I'm blanking on the name. Somebody in the chat probably. I'm on the whatchamacallit. So you guys wouldn't know what it is when you see it. But anyways, he didn't ask that question, which was good. Again, I actually did get a book. Hold on a second. Now I felt annoyed with myself for buying it, because I don't want to give. So this is about the hidden history of the British monarchy and the slavery in the Americas. So I read a review on this, and I agree. I don't think this is a book that lends itself. It has an agenda to push. And so I'm interested in reading it. I went ahead and bought it so I could read it and hopefully review it and explain why I think probably the history is bad, because I think the history is bad here. So anyways, all that to say is that obviously a lot of political biases come into play here, but I thought the visit itself overall was very, very good. Beth Kid writes, gave a £2 super chat. Why, thank you so much, Beth Kid. Really appreciate it. Diz fan also gave a super chat saying, what were your thoughts on his speech in Congress? To me, it is a defining moment of his reign, felt familiar to Queen Elizabeth's trip to Northern Ireland. It did. It did. And I mean, I haven't been able to listen to the whole thing, because in the lead up to obviously going to Sweden, I was also moving. So there just wasn't a ton of time to watch everything. So I was quite limited on the coverage I could do. Again, if Carl Gustav's birthday hadn't interfered with Charles, I would have been in Washington, D.C. trying to cover this. But because it did kind of interfere, and I'd been looking forward to Carl Gustav's birthday all year, since last year, literally a year. I looked up and saw who was going to have a big birthday, because I was really hoping they had a big birthday party. So I was looking forward to that. So I think, though, it was very good. He was obviously very well received. You had people from all sides in the chamber. And so it was a big moment. He looked like a statesman, but as well, the challenge Charles has, I think, in a lot of ways, is his age. And he just doesn't have a ton of charisma in a lot of ways. Or at least it doesn't translate well on screen. And so in person, it might be fine, but it doesn't translate well on screen. And so I think that does limit him in connecting with younger people in particular. And that's where William definitely can step into the divide in a lot of ways. Stephen Magnus says royal photographs, Harry and Meghan on your list. Yes, I have photographed them. At the Queen Elizabeth II service of Thanksgiving for her Platinum Jubilee, I got a picture of Harry and Meghan, which I've used. And I like getting my own pictures as well, guys, because the pictures I got of Prince Harry, I've actually photographed Prince Harry twice, Meghan just once. But the pictures I got of Harry departing the courthouse, guys, I've used so much in thumbnails. It's really awesome to have my own cache of pictures that I can use for various things. So yeah, I have photographed them. Like I would photograph them. And this weird thing, yes, there are some people who are not fans of Harry and Meghan and would like boo and throw tomatoes or whatever. I get that. I don't really do that though, because to me, there's a difference between when I'm commentating and when I'm trying as best I can to be an impartial journalist observing. That's a difference. I really try to hit that divide. So I wouldn't go to a place just to boo. I would go to a place because I want to cover. I want pictures. I want my own pictures I can control and these sorts of things. And honestly, as well, going to a royal event, you learn so much more about how to cover royal events. Because man, I mean, guys, I'm looking over in my office here. You can't see. I travel with big suitcases, bigger than I needed to. I traveled with quite a big suitcase to Sweden for like 4 days. I'm sure they're like, why do you need such a big suitcase? Because I have a step stool. I have to have a step stool. The all the photographers have step stools. That's like one of the first things I kind of figured out after a while. In fact, I invested in my little black step stool when I was in Boston for Catherine and William Earthshot Prize visit. Yes, oh yes. Carol gave a super chat as well. Thank you so much, Carol, saying, love Alison Boshoff's article. She just spit the facts out. Also, great video doing a comparison analysis between Meghan and Blake. Why, thank you. Thank you so much, Carol. I'm so sorry, guys. I accidentally swiped, I guess, a little bit too much and it swiped me clear off the page. So, anyways, I enjoyed that. There's just such obvious comparisons between Blake and Meghan Markle. And I was just so shocked that like she's not letting this go. I was just so shocked that she's not letting this go. I was like, to salvage yourself, and this is in relation to Blake, to salvage herself right now, she just needs to let it all go, just let it settle and go on. Go on, live your best life, do your film roles, dragging this out even more and claiming you are there sticking up for women who like have been harassed or whatever. Like, no, you're not. And you're not the victim. You're a woman who is infinitely more, like 100 times more wealthy than the man you're suing. You have all the power in the world. Like, give me a break. All right. And we do have one more super chat here. Diz fan said, I like how Andrew Morton said Charles delivered and how after 30 years later, Diana was wrong. I like how the US responded to Queen Camilla. Yeah, Queen Camilla is lovely and I think warm. She's a lovely, warm person. Did she make mistakes? Of course she did. Did everybody make mistakes when it came to Charles and Diana and Camilla and Diana's lovers? Yes, they all made massive mistakes. And they should all answer to them in their own ways. And they have in a lot of respects. Okay, so let's get to this Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse video or section because I thought there were a lot of really fascinating bits and bobs here. And again, this was written by Dominique Hines. And so I can't help but think that somebody from Meghan's camp goes, Dominique, can you please fight against this Allison and her article about how nobody likes Meghan? And no, she has 4 powerful women who won't let her fail. And just as a kind of a tidbit here before we begin, all the women, I don't think you'll be surprised to find that all the women who allegedly won't make Meghan Markle fail are women of color, which means I think that their sole reason for supporting Meghan is that she's a woman of color and that's it. That's it. These women would not care if Meghan was somebody else. They wouldn't. They would move on. They would go in different directions. They would not care. She would not even be a blip on the radar. And you can say, well, they'll ride or die for her because, of the kind of the camaraderie of their shared racial heritage, but at the same time, I also think it reflects a rather big fickleness. And it's a sign that at the end of the day, they don't really believe in Megan as a person, as a talent. And you can't fix something that just doesn't work. Meghan Markle's not a talent. So no matter how much you prop her up, she's just not going to go anywhere. Like that's just not how this is going to work. And it's another sign of how Meghan has really weaponized her race in order to prop herself up. And of course, it always has a shelf life, but it's just kind of annoying because it's like even her fans, I'm like, be real. Would you care about her at all if her skin was a different color or if she claimed a different racial heritage? Like, no, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't be so ride or die. And to me, of course, it's I think it reflects a reverse racism. You like her just because of her race. You know, they would claim that people don't like Meghan just because of her race. No, no, no. It's more nuanced than that because much like Martin Luther King Jr., I judge people based on the content of their character and not the color of their skin. The color of their skin, I don't really care. I'm looking at the content of your character. And when I evaluate the content of your character, I find flaws, just like Blake and Megan. I found flaws in both of them in their characters. I have obviously character flaws as well. Everybody does, not that anybody is perfect. But when I look at that, it's like it's just so annoying that everything comes down to race and it's like that has nothing to do with it. That has less than nothing to do with it. It's what we're looking at here is her actions, her decisions, and again, Blake the same way. I came from actually fairly liking Blake, mostly just for fashion reasons. Other than that, like I didn't really watch much of her projects. I sort of enjoyed A Simple Favor, but I liked her fashion. But then when the stories started coming out, and then I really started to look at her, I was like, oh, I see the rudeness. I see the cattiness. I see being the unnecessarily cruel to somebody else. And I'm like, okay, so I'm just not so much liking you anymore because there can be people out there in the Hollywood entertainment industry who are very wealthy, very famous, and can be very kind and generous. Sorry, guys, I'm moving my little coaster over, my little crown coaster I got in Sweden, moving it over here. And Megan just, she has so been able to leverage the BLM movement to her own benefit. I mean, it's worked for her, but honestly, again, we're already seeing I mean, the BLM movement in a lot of ways has failed in terms of that people are like, "Okay, like, I understand, but there have been counter stories that have people gone, "Okay, it's not just cops being racist or something like that." All you have to do is watch a lot of the body cam videos, and you see a variety of people, a variety of different skin colors all getting arrested for various reasons because they've broken a law. And not to say everybody again, not to say everybody's perfect, but man, those body cam videos, oh, they're gems. So, this is who they say is gonna make sure that Meghan Markle, this power players, is a tight, carefully curated circle of four women, all billionaires and all deeply embedded in Hollywood power. So they are Oprah Winfrey, not a surprise. Former Starbucks chair Melody Hobson, US TV titan Shonda Rhimes, and diplomat Nicole Advent, who is obviously married to Ted Sarandos. So we gone from Nicole hating Meghan to Nicole being one of the famous women who is going to make sure Meghan Markle doesn't fail. So obviously, I feel like in a way there's some disconnect here. There's some very obviously disconnect. And it's interesting because two things, of course, can be true at once. But honestly, I think, and if as we read through this, you will see, guys, all these women are only in it for the payday. They're in it for the race and the potential payday, and that is it. That is it when it comes to Meghan. And if she doesn't deliver, they'll all ghost her. I guarantee you guys they will ghost her. And so obviously they operate within the Montecito and Hollywood power ecosystem because Meghan didn't choose Montecito by accident. She was hoping to get connected. She also has Tyler Perry. That's kind of hit and miss. Gayle King. And they're all incredibly busy. They are not sitting having brunch every week because, Meghan Markle is not a woman who lunches. But if one of them needs something, advice, funding, a contract, they show up. That is how power works at that level. Well, then how is Meghan Markle failing so badly? I don't quite understand. I don't understand. Together, they offer something far more valuable than that gaudy Monday night invitation to the Met. They provide installation access and, when needed, intervention too. Like this, I mean, granted, guys, the Met was terrible. I did a whole fashion video about it. And my thought process on the Met is that I don't think the people who are quote unquote into, I don't want to say the people into, but like I hate modern art with a fiery passion. And I hate sort of the modern art movement because I think it's ugly and grotesque most of the time. I prefer the classics because they are better. They are actually artistic in terms of, let's say, capturing light. The ability of Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci and Raphael to like capture human expressions and experiences is insane compared to, a banana taped to a wall, or a golden toilet is somehow a golden toilet being a reflection of art. It's just a freaking golden toilet. Like there's nothing bigger there. There's actually a great PragerU video about modern art, and it's a art teacher guy, and he has his students look at this paint splattered picture, and they're all like trying to analyze it and find the meaning, and he kind of pulls back and it's just his apron from painting. There's no deeper meaning in splatters. There's really not. So I think all that to say that because there's just not I think, appreciation for real art, because real art should, I think, elicit a feeling of beauty. Like you should look at it and see the beauty, rather than the more nihilistic stuff that we have now, that most of the people in that world can no longer actually reflect true art. So an event based on art, they just can't do it because they fundamentally don't even understand what art is supposed to be in the first place. And that's not everyone, but there were a lot of people I'm like, that's just ugly. Or they like didn't even get the art reference, or like they were making it into something else that it wasn't. And you can agree with me or disagree with me on that, but I think you actually have to have an appreciation for real art to actually be able to reflect it. So, anyways, but that is still the invitation of the night. To not get it signifies something. And it does mean that, yes, Meghan doesn't have the Met, but she has these women, right? And these women are going to help her. Well, why are they going to help her? Well, they want her autobiography. They want her autobiography. So what does that mean, guys? They are helping her for the money, and that's it. That's really truly it. At the end of the day, yes, race plays a role in there, but they're all hoping to cash in on the payday. That's the angle. And I think for people who are saying that people won't buy Meghan's autobiography, they'll buy her autobiography. Of course they will. It'll be a bestseller. It'll be the last, gasp of Harry and Meghan to actually cash in on a payday. That'll be it. And that's it. So it'll always be coming. It will come. It'll come because that's all they have, Harry and Meghan. They're both devoid of talent. And here's the thing. None of these women can actually, beyond a autobiography, which is Meghan again capitalizing off her time in the royal. Meghan has nothing else to make money. She has nothing else to offer any of these women. She's not a good businesswoman. She doesn't really have the connections without them. Like she has nothing without them. And they are obviously can all go off and be massively successful without her. So that's the thing is she desperately needs them. They don't need her. And in that dynamic, at some point, something's going to break. Somebody's going to go, I'm sort of done. Like, I've given you access to my private jet 12 times, and all I get for it is one lousy jar of jam. They're just not going to be, that's just not going to last forever. And especially because, as well, the only reason they care at all is her ethnic heritage, I think that's also a fickle thing because it's a very shallow reason to support and like her. It's a very shallow. Same thing with her fans. Like they've built this woman up in their mind so much. It's like she's not really there, guys. It's just and so it makes it much easier for them to leave because it's only about skin color. There's nothing deeper. There's nothing like, "Wow, she has such an amazing story," or, "Wow, oh my gosh, she's doing such amazing things." Meghan Markle is not. She can't even sell a box of freaking chocolate for Mother's Day. It's a 50 some odd $58 box, but she can't even sell that out. So, failure in a lot of ways. So, goes on to say talk about their, home and then they chose obviously the viewers for Harry and Meghan's interview with Oprah Winfrey and how it was Oprah's influence that was the reason Harry and Meghan attended Kris Jenner's party and then they totally botched it. Like here's the thing. If you are Oprah Winfrey and you told them, "Yeah, yeah, go ahead and go to Jeff Bezos's or sorry, Kris Jenner's party at Jeff Bezos's, like, that's gonna be good for you." And they go, and then they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's Remembrance Sunday the next day." Like, guys, it's the same time every year. It's the 2nd Sunday of the month every year. It doesn't change. It's not a surprise. It's, like, so idiotic that they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's the wrong day." And then they obviously change it. It's just it looks incredibly insanely bad. Like, they do it and then they immediately botch it. Like, because 'cause they're so dim, like, the 2 of them. They're the Duke and Duchess of dim, and sometimes dumb. Alright, it goes on to say, the goal was for Meghan to rub shoulders with key power players, including Bezos himself. After the event, the couple obviously, we had that. And the idea of Megan rubbing shoulders, like, constantly networking. Again, the thing is that we don't see, guys, that we haven't seen in a really long time is, yes, Meghan Markle can network, but she doesn't actually have the follow through. It's just not there. And in this industry in Hollywood, the box office isn't doing particularly well. People are avoiding the cinema, and, like, there's just so many, I think, broader issues going on within entertainment, like, everybody's having to scale back because everybody blew out their budgets, like, the Doomsday movie from Marvel is easily right now well over probably $500 million for Disney to produce. We're probably talking between a $500 million and $1 billion to actually make that movie, and who knows if it'll even make $1 billion. Like, people are just throwing stupid money after stupid money. And so, yes, people are more willing to kind of support particular things, but the money is running out. And so the grifting only goes so far. So Meghan Markle, I would say, Carol, you pointed it out, which is true. Megan is more of a grifter, not a networker. She grifts. She doesn't network because networking means is a quid pro quo. And Harry and Meghan, how they could have network is if they had good connections to the royals. People do want that, and Harry and Meghan could have facilitated that. But the thing is, Harry and Meghan aren't on good terms with his family. Ergo, they just don't have anything to offer these people. And at some point, they all figure that out. They're all like sitting there going, "Okay, I've lent her my jet. I've lent her my house. I've lent her this and I lent her that." And then again, all I get is this very nicely worded note with a couple jars of jam. And like, that's it. That you cannot do that forever. You cannot do that forever. And what I thought was interesting in this too, because again, this strikes me as very much from Harry and Meghan's camp, is that it admits that they only moved into their house after a month. And it goes to confirm what I've always said, which is that when it comes to Harry and Meghan's house in Montecito, they didn't do any rehab on it. And most celebrities, when they have a decent amount of money, they totally gut the house and redo it in a style that they want. I think Harry and Meghan at the most probably painted some walls, maybe tore up some carpeting and maybe fixed some other like must have issues. And then they moved in. So they have this house that's old that probably is not in the best condition it should be because they don't really have the money. Because it sometimes looks kind of run down in some of the pictures, but Anyways, so M Megan's mentor number 2 is Melody Hobson, chief executive of Ariel Investments, former chair of Starbucks. She's 57 and married to George Lucas of Star Wars fame and operates at the intersection of finance, media, and influence. She doesn't give her time to just anyone. Duchess or dinner lady, Melody is selective. That's because she lends credibility to anyone she associates with. So I don't even know if we've seen a picture of Megan and Melody. I mean, I'm sure they've interacted and maybe there's a picture out there, somewhere from an event I'm not familiar with, but like I feel like heard this same line from Megan before. It's like, oh, that person's so important. They're hanging out with Megan. In the real world of royals, it would actually be the reverse. It would actually be so much more impressive as if somebody else was hanging out with the royal rather than the royal hanging out with them. That in this scenario gives Melody the power. Melody has the power. Melody's the kingmaker. Why? Because Megan doesn't have any. Again, this she might think this article is a win, but it actually shows how weak Megan is right now. And so I guess Hobson appeared on Archetypes, and then there's Shonda Rhimes. The 56-year-old support is less visible to Megan. So this is Shonda. Promotional sense and more in terms of positioning. Meghan and Harry's Netflix deal may have cooled, but the relationships inside that ecosystem still count. Again, this is like, it feels like desperation here. Like we're still good. We're still good. Yeah, and somebody mentioned there's no mention of Victoria Jackson. Again, very interesting because again, Meghan wants to highlight the racial aspect as well because Meghan's obsessed with it too. An industry where access is everything, Rhimes remains a gatekeeper. A producer who has worked with both women tells me Rhimes is also close to diplomat Nicole, further cementing the Netflix thread running through Meghan's entire network. Well, then why didn't Netflix downgrade their deal? Yes, I know. They keep telling us, oh, well, they do that with everyone. Harry and Meghan also, though, have had numerous failures at this point. And I don't know if it says it here. It says it somewhere here. And again, because we're kind of skimming it, we're not going into the deep dive. They talked about polo. And so I'll just say here, if we come across it later, I do apologize. But when it comes to polo, the reason the show failed wasn't because you didn't dramatize it in terms of making it a drama instead of making it a reality TV show. The reason polo failed was because Harry and Meghan are really, really crappy storytellers. That's why it failed. There were stories in there that you could have mined if you had a sense for what the story is. Now, I will say I did sort of appreciate that they didn't want to exploit a man's very serious injury that he had playing polo. I respect that in a way, but at the same time, that is the story. That would have been the story. If you had built up that whole show and in episode 5 or 4, because I think there were 6, I can't remember. Golly, were there 6? That's a lot. But I think there was. When you get to episode, let's say 4 or 5, and he has this devastating injury and you end on that and everybody's like, oh, what's going to happen next? You want to click because you want to hear what happened. And Harry and Meghan were like, oh, we didn't want to exploit, his pain and recovery and whatever. And so it's we didn't do it. But then there's just was no story. You had kind of this a-hole guy who was, I think, good reality TV, who you didn't totally mind correctly. And honestly, as well, I didn't like him at all. So all that to say, again, you had stuff you could mine. Dramatizing it, making it into a drama was not your problem. It was that Harry and Meghan can't tell stories. They couldn't even tell their own story well. Harry and Meghan as a documentary was not a good documentary. It was not rewatchable in a good way. It was too self-indulgent, too overly produced for what it was. And that's every documentary for Harry and Meghan. The fundamental problem is that in an entertainment industry where storytelling is key, they can't tell stories. And that's what's holding them back. Nothing else. Then. So an insider says that it's here that the narrative currently circulating that Advent is now somehow at odds with Meghan begins to unravel. That's just not what I've seen. A Netflix insider tells me the opposite, in fact. So again, this goes back, guys, to what I've been saying all along when it comes to Hollywood, which is that everybody is pretty much two-faced. So there is absolutely two things that can be true. It can be true that Nicole Avent hates Meghan Markle. It can also be true that she wants to make some money off the woman and keeps her hanging around in case Meghan Markle makes an autobiography that Netflix can exploit for their own ends. Two things can be true at once here. Two, the hatred and the hope to make money. Those are the two things that could be, and I would argue probably are, motivating Nicole's relationship with Meghan. And again, you see this in here because they're all in it for her autobiography. That's the crazy part. And that's all about making money off of it. So they only want to make money off of her. No other reason. Sources familiar with the dynamic describe ongoing contact and continued alignment within the same professional and philanthropic circles. That doesn't mean they're friends, though. Again, a lot of people in Hollywood hobnob and hate each other at the same time. The suggestion of a falling out is described by one Netflix insider as misread noise rather than reality. Again, this is all a Harry and Meghan propaganda ploy. Avent has long advocated for Meghan within Hollywood, studying relationships when the couple reputation has wobbled because they suck. They're not good at their jobs. They're just not. That's just an objective fact. And a lot of people in Hollywood honestly aren't good right now. The entertainment industry chased off, I think, some of their best people because of Me Too and these sorts of things. And so, yeah. Relationship, a person familiar with their dynamic tells me, has at times been emotional. There have been moments when Meghan has been overwhelmed by the pressure, the collapse of commercial deals, the constant tide of negative headlines, and Nicole has been there. Oh my gosh. Just going, come on, honey, just do the autobiography. You'll make money. I'll make money. We'll all be happy. At Netflix, they obviously were there on April 10th. And so the two women were seen holding hands and embracing, is seen as a cynical forced closeness, but a guest at the gathering says it was purposeful display of unity. I don't know. Honestly, Meghan is overdoing it and Nicole looks a little dead-eyed to me. That's just my opinion. And honestly, if what woman would want this? Like, again, is Meghan trying to be a lesbian? I don't know. So where does it leave Brand Sussex? Obviously, they've had a lot of failures. And as ever, have yet to fully scale up. And it's not probably going to. The broader Netflix relationship has not collapsed. Urging people not to believe everything you read. And oh my gosh, this is so funny. This is so funny. So this goes back to the polo thing. The project, says the Netflix insider, this is about their new show, is an upstairs-downstairs drama set in the world of elite polo. This has been salvaged from the underperforming documentary and turned into a sports drama that's more likely to be of more interest. Maybe, maybe not. Again, if Harry and Meghan are dictating the story terms, it's probably going to perform as well, which is badly. It shows how much Netflix is trying to save this relationship. Again, for the autobiography. Meghan is studying executive producing through Archwell Productions, including behind-the-scenes skills such as project development and production decision-making. Sources say the emphasis is on shaping content rather than performing in it. She doesn't want to be on the poster. She wants to be in the writer's room. This woman cannot even write Instagram posts, and she wants to be a writer. What are you talking about? This is just insane. This is just so insane and weird. And it's like, oh, I'm going to learn this by doing it. Like, you know what? When she should have been learning some of these skills? When she was on Suits. You know what people do on a steady show when they want to grow and do different things in the entertainment industry? And when they want to join, let's say, I keep wanting to say guilds, but I don't think that's the right word, but join kind of various unions, like the producers union, the directors union, or whatever. They do, like, or the writers guild, they do those things. They write, they produce, they direct, they attempt to learn new skills. Meghan never attempted to learn any new skills. And now all of a sudden she's doing it on the fly, and we can see, because it sucks, she does not have the natural inclination here. And she may learn, like, there's always a possibility of learning, but honestly, she can't take advice. We've seen her attempts many times, and they have not been particularly good. So I just don't think she's going to get any better here. And I just think it's funny. She doesn't want to be on the poster. She wants to be in the writer's room. But you actually have to have talent to be that. And there's a lot of talentless people in writer's rooms right now. And Meghan Markle is just going to add another one to the ranking. Let's be honest. And then there's a project that sits behind much of this alignment. Meghan's autobiography. For years, it has hovered as rumor, occasionally acknowledged, never confirmed in detail. She's going to do an autobiography, guys. She has, according to those familiar with the process, been taking notes for years, not casually, but methodically. A publisher insider tells me voice notes on her phone at 1 a.m., written journals, structured reflections. She has been documenting everything since before Netflix. For this reason, this is the only money-making venture she has left. The value of the material is obvious. Memoir from Meghan would not just be a book, but it would be a multi-platform event with global publishing rights, an interview special, and a streaming component. So here we have maybe Nicole and Oprah. Sorry, this would be Oprah here, the interview special. The streaming component would be Nicole and Shonda Rhimes, and maybe Melody would be over here in global publishing. So again, what's critical here to understand is that they're all going to make a buck off her. And that's all they care about, I think, at the end of the day. It's expected to be bigger than Harry's Spare. It will not be bigger than Harry's Spare. Harry's was the biggest. I don't think Meghan's will be as big. And another time it might have been. Honestly, I think if she divorced, guys, so seriously, to capitalize off this, the best thing Meghan could do, honestly, is file for divorce and then publish a couple months later. That way you can capitalize off the divorce drama and the lead up to the divorce and basically laying out your story. Because Harry kind of obviously was able to capitalize off the Queen's death, his father becoming king, the reality TV show, and then Spare. But given Harry's connection to Diana, Harry would be, I think, Harry is infinitely more interesting in some ways in that respect because he grew up in the Windsor fold than Meghan. Because I don't think in the same way some people would be, let's say, quite as like, how many people would be that interested in aspects of Mexit? Like, it's the royal side that matters. And so anything connected to the royals is going to make her money. She individually herself, her own autobiography of, I was in high school, I was serving soft serve ice cream so I could afford a shirt that said BB on it. Like, nobody's going to care about that at all. So it would depend on that. But much like Harry's, it will be a bestseller. I don't think it will be as big a bestseller as his, but it will do very well. It will do very, very well. Nicole is said to have fostered the behind-the-scenes chats about how such a project could be developed in partnership with Netflix as a structured multi-part rollout tied to the book's release. Again, this is why they're friends. This is why Nicole is friends with Meghan for this. That's it. The timing is complicated. Publishing plans are believed to have slowed, in part due to the delicate question of King Charles and Harry's ongoing attempts, however tentative, to repair their relationship. Well, she won't have to worry about that if she divorces him. The memoir is leverage. A memoir is leverage, but it also represents risk. Sources say Meghan wants the book to be both a record setter and a reset, telling her version of events while also charting her success in America. Okay, number one, she has been telling us her version of events for years now. It has not helped her. It has not helped her, much like it hasn't helped Blake Lively. It hasn't helped Meghan. And then, because, again, she has a tendency to lie. Just my personal opinion. And charting her success in America. She has not been successful in America. She has not been successful at all in America. Basically, everything has flopped and failed. There is no success to tout here. If Meghan came in and had this hugely successful kind of show or movie or book series or something like that, she could. And the thing is, Meghan could have been wildly successful, I think. But the problem is Meghan never had any talent in the first place and could not take the criticism and the critique and the guidance that I think much smarter women were offering her. And that's how we end up with this mess here. She does not want it to be a book of grievances. That's what it'll be. That's what it always is. She wants to reflect where she's going, not just where she has been. Well, where is she going, guys? I don't know where she's going. She's not going anywhere. I'm told she is acutely aware of the fallout following the Oprah interview and Harry's Spare and is determined to strike a careful balance. She won't avoid it being as bad as Harry's. Like, I think the fallout could be worse. The fallout, explaining his side of things did not actually help him. It didn't help him. It hasn't helped him. It has not helped them at all. And this is, I thought was really funny. There were things she could have said that would dominate the headlines, but she's weighing that against the bigger picture. Sure, sure. One of the moments, this is like so dumb of her to be obsessed with, but I can totally see it. One of the moments she is particularly keen to address is a backlash to the Instagram story she posted while she was in Paris for the Balenciaga show last October. I just thought it was kind of dumb going to the show, but no. It was, the filming was done close to the Paris tunnel where Princess Diana died, and there was an outcry about it being insensitive. That really stayed with her. She wants to explain the context properly. There is no context to that story. What are you talking about? Like, the only context I could see was like maybe she's going, well, I was feeling Diana's spirit as we drove past, and I need to take a video of it. Like, to be honest, you probably didn't realize where you were and you took a video. It's just dumb. Like, there cannot be, I'm sorry, a bigger explanation there. Like, to need to clap back. But Meghan is the type who needs to clap back at every perceived little slight. And again, it doesn't help you to go down that path. Sources say Harry's priority remains stabilizing relationships with his family. Meghan is described as a supportive of that objective. So, but with no desire to escalate tensions, but she has no desire also as well to have a relationship. So this is interesting because I think it reflects Harry and Meghan's diverging priorities. He wants to prioritize family. She wants to prioritize herself. I mean, she always prioritizes herself, let's be honest. But like, she wants to go more in that direction, I'm sure. And that will cause tensions in a marriage and a relationship if you have two very, very different priorities. There's also a deeper layer to this. Support behind these four women is a wider network of women in entertainment and media who are convinced that Meghan has been given an unfair hearing and see her much publicized missteps as not unforgivable. So yes, the Met Gala did not need Meghan, but apparently she did not need it either. She doesn't need it, but she wants it. Like, let's be honest, it's such a dumb line. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. But this idea that, like, her much publicized missteps, they've been much publicized because they have been numerous missteps. Like, you can't avoid that. You can't avoid the failure. And to do so is just like crazy to me, because giving money to Meghan Markle, investing in Meghan Markle is just flushing cash down the drain. That's like all you're doing. That's all you're doing is flushing money down the drain. Good money after bad. Well, I mean, basically just all money down the drain. That's like what you're doing. It's sort of a crazy idea and notion, but it doesn't surprise me either. But going through that article, like, and we went through together. I mean, obviously you can see it was written on Meghan Markle's behalf and with directives from Meghan's team. And we get these constant tit for tats. Like, a negative story comes out, Meghan Markle has to counteract it. Negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive. So the truth always lies somewhere in the middle. And we've seen how even the article where it says that Meghan and Chris aren't really all that close anymore, all of a sudden Chris gets a gift basket of as ever stuff for Mother's Day. It's like, well, that, like, Meghan's watching the media and she's reacting to it. She's constantly trying to mold the narrative. And she does that through a numerous level, like throwing constant money at PR. And it's just crazy to me, because it's funny because I think so much of Meghan Markle's money when she was in Suits went to PR. I think all of the money went to PR, like all of it. I don't think she had that much money from Suits because she was just paying PR to do what she could have done, because Meghan utilized PR and leveraged it to try to promote herself rather than actually doing the hard work that results in natural promotion. Like, do work, do something good, and then utilize the promotional efforts. But Meghan, I think, promoted anything. And at the end of the day, you kind of had a big old fat nothing. And I think Harry and Meghan have been draining money. We've had other articles talking about how, like, they're kind of out of money. Harry's inheritance has been blown through. And I'm not surprised that that's probably the case. And the only recourse they have, guys, and again, if somebody was telling you that this wasn't coming, they were lying. But her memoir is coming because it's the only cash grab they have left. It's the only cash grab they have left. And like, if she was a very cynical person, I think you file for a divorce. And then once that hype is high, you capitalize off it with the book. That's my most cynical take there. And all of those women, again, have a financial incentive to be friends with her. And notice that they don't really, let's say, see her beyond her autobiography, bringing them in money. They're all there to capitalize off the autobiography. And so everything about those relationships is shallow and cynical. It's all, yeah, love you, Meghan. Oh my gosh, let's hug, let's hug. And then, scurrying over to somebody else going, I can't stand that woman. But hopefully, man, hopefully the autobiography makes me millions. Like that's what they're all doing. I think that's what they're all doing. They don't really care. They don't really care. Oh, I heard some shaking. Maybe Miss Pippa comes in to see us. Miss Pippa. We'll see if she comes in. But either way, lots of failure in the future, I think, for Harry and Meghan. They'll get one last hurrah with the book. Ah, baby girl. Hold on. Guys want to see the cutest face in the whole world? There's Miss Pippa. Say hi there, over there. Do you see him? Oh, we need to go to the groomer. We go to a place and they give report cards when I travel, and she got such a good little report card. She was such a good girl. And the guy even said, he was like, she's so easy. I'm like, yes, she is. Yes, she is. Yeah. Yeah. So Spirit Matter asks, is she Yorkie? She's a Yorkie poo. So she's part Yorkie, part poodle. Her ears don't stick up, but that's okay. She's got floppy ears. I like her floppy ears. So she's my sweet girl. She keeps trying to figure out where she wants to sleep at night in the new arrangement, because this is like the office / closet. And she decided to sleep in here, where she's probably going to go here in a second, which is her big fluffy pink bed, which my mom was like, oh, that's disgusting. You should get rid of it. I was like, she loves that bed. And so she's in the bed right now. And she decided the other night, she's like, I'm going to sleep in here. And I'm like, okay. And then the other night too, then she was like, no, I want to sleep on the bed with you, which she usually doesn't do. So anyways, sorry with the doggy distraction, but it's so much funner than Meghan here. So yeah, Meghan, I just don't have high hopes for her future in some ways, in terms of being successful. I think at some point they'll maybe have to downsize. If not, they'll divorce or something to that effect. Because again, she wants to live a billionaire's lifestyle and a millionaire salary. And that's just going to catch up with you someday. So let's go ahead and talk about Catherine's upcoming trip to Italia. Ooh, sorry, I just got distracted by news. This is not super exciting news. Nobody will really care. But apparently the Edward the VIII, coin that was struck before his abdication is going to go to auction, and it could fetch as much as 300,000 pounds, guys. That's crazy. That is crazy, but so fun. So this is exciting because it's Catherine's first trip after her cancer diagnosis. And so she will be going to Italy for part of her work on early childhood. She'll be going to Reggio Emilia on a research trip with the Royal Foundation for Early Childhood. She will carry out her first multi-day foreign trip in nearly 3.5 years, in a milestone for her recovery and a show of support for the region's ethos around raising children. So the last time she traveled, I have to double check, but I think it really was to the United States. It might have been for the Earth shot. Maybe the only other thing I could think of is possibly Denmark, but I don't think it was Denmark. I think Denmark was pre-COVID, I want to say. So it's nice that she's able to finally get some travel in. Kensington Palace said the princess was very much looking forward to the trip. She'll be attend without her husband. She is expected to undertake further overseas travel this year as she continues her recovery. Whoop, whoop. Her last solo working trip was in 2022. Oh, when she traveled to Copenhagen. So that was earlier in the year to see the Scandinavian approach to early childhood. So I am very much looking forward to Catherine and William traveling a bit more. It's kind of been like disappointing that they haven't been able to travel more, or she hasn't been able to travel more. So she may go with William to India, I think is where they're hosting the Earthshot Prize this year. So she may go with William to India, but obviously there's been lots of talks about Australia. I kind of hope it's not Australia though, because I want to do Australia next year. Although next year is looking pretty stacked as well, because obviously we do. Catherine's going to Italy. Great time to plug that Royal News Network has a upcoming trip to Tuscany, Italy. It is linked in the description box, which I'm so excited about. It's going to be through Tuscany, and it's just going to be absolutely amazing to go to all these little cities and stuff. It's cool because we have a home base hotel in Tuscany, and then we do day trips to these cities. So you're not constantly like repacking and getting on the bus, repacking, getting on the bus. We did that in Scotland. It was a little rough, I felt like, but this other one was this other setup I think is kind of preferable, and be a lot of day trips, olive oil tasting, wine tasting, and I believe cheese tasting as well. So if you really want your decadent richness, check it out. It's going to be awesome. We got a couple people already signed up. It's next year, literally 11 months from now, which I realize is insane, but I've already had to actually reserve another trip, which I think you guys will be unbelievably excited about, but that won't launch until August because it won't be until the fall of 2027. But it was the last date, and I was like, oh crud, I got to get it. So anyways, it's kind of crazy how they're doing it now. So it's been an interesting journey, you could say. But either way, obviously very exciting. I'm very excited that Catherine is going to travel. Very excited for more traveling coming soon, because it would be lovely to see the kids out. Louis has never been and done a foreign tour with his parents and family. I would love to see all of them out together. I think that would be obviously a lot of fun. Again, Australia, but like I don't want it to be Australia because I have a lot of plans for travel this year. I'm hoping to go next month in June. I'm still waiting on the dates, unfortunately, because they haven't confirmed them yet. Because I do want to cover. So there was actually 2 solid weeks of stuff. Obviously, Peter Philip's wedding, the opening of yacht season in Denmark. You have King Carl Gustaf and Queen Sylvia's 50th wedding anniversary. And then you also have, what's the other big thing? State visit in the Netherlands from Germany. But there is going to be a state visit in Belgium and the Netherlands from Japan. And I really want to cover that. I think that actually, to me, is more exciting because obviously of the very close relationship Maxima has with the Empress and stuff like that. So I think Maxima will, this is my prediction for the Japanese state visit. I think Maxima will bust out the full Stuart tiara. Maybe the lower setting, but she might add, like, I'm hoping she does the full Stuart. I hope to get press access to that. We shall see what happens. But again, lots going on in June. Obviously, you have Dripping the Color as well and Royal Ascot. So there's a lot going on in June. And it's going to be very, very busy. So, like, but I don't have my tickets yet. And obviously, it's May 8th. And so prices are just going to keep going up. But, like, I can't make the trip until I know when. Yeah. Mary asks, hi, Brittany, did you comment on King Carl Gustaf's 80th birthday? I did. It was very, very fun. Yeah. And somebody asked, what designers will Catherine wear? Like, we could see Catherine has worn some Dolce & Gabbana before. We could maybe see some Prada Italian. I think Prada's Italian. So we have some Dolce & Gabbana Gucci. Catherine has worn some Gucci before. Not a ton, but she definitely has. So that could be quite exciting. So I'm looking forward to that. It's always fun to cover something new and exciting. And obviously we did have as well this morning I guess technically today, the Buckingham Palace garden party and this dress from Self Portrait. And so hopefully we will see some more new fashion and a vintage hat. Catherine, I think, is getting more and more into vintage. This is funny. It was a very vintage style. And I was like looking at it for a second there. And I thought that Catherine added the flower, but it's actually the flower is officially a part of the dress in Self Portrait. So it's funny though, because I have a couple Self Portrait dresses and I really like them, but the buttons, they have snap closures when they really should have had kind of kind of like other style closures because especially around the bust area, mine doesn't stay. So and it can I got one dress though one time, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I look like the mother of the bride." It was, like, horrid, but Madeline looked great in it. So I think a lot of self-portrait depends on how the bust area looks. If you have a lot of it, it can tend to look older on you. If you don't have as much of it, it can tend to look better on you. That's just in having a couple of self-portrait dresses, that has been my kind of distinct observation. So take it for what you will. And so let's move on though to the Andrew situation because that was worrying in a lot of ways, I thought, because of course, I understand people's thoughts on Andrew, but I feel like we've seen both not only Andrew, but obviously a lot with Donald Trump, how the rhetoric people can use can influence those who are less mentally stable to enact violence because they believe that the traditional routes of justice are not enough. And I think there's a distinct danger there and why it's important can't to be cautious of what you're saying online sometimes because this shouldn't be happening. So, so Andrew is going to give evidence. Defendant Alex Jenkinson pleads not guilty to harassing the former prince near his new home in Sandringham. So he's expected the Westminster Magistrates Courts on Friday. 39-year-old Alex Jenkinson pleaded not guilty to using threatening, abusive, or insulting words or behavior with intent to cause fear or provoke unlawful violence. He is expected to stand trial in the same court on July 29th. Mr. Jones told the courts there was certainly a suggestion that Mr. Jenkinson had an interest in the king's brother, adding, whether that extends to any other members of the royal family, I don't think I can say that. Mr. Jenkinson, who appeared at court via video link, gave his address in Suffolk and pleaded guilty to failing to provide a specimen of blood while in the custody the same day. He pleaded not guilty to a further charge of threatening, abusive, or insulting words. So it kind of describes him a little bit. So he was arrested after Norfolk police responded to a report that a man was behaving in an intimidating manner in the village. Mr. Mountbatten, who has been accompanied by a member of his private security detail, is reported to have rushed towards his car, which was parked nearby, and driven away. The incident took place on public lands. Friend says that highlighted the issue about long-term safety of the king's younger brother. Obviously, it can be used as well by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to argue that they need security. But here's the thing. Obviously, people have a lot of strong opinions on Andrew as they do, let's say, on President Donald Trump. And, what they're accusing these men of might be true. Not saying it's not. But there is what I see in social media space sometimes is this sort of mob justice. It's like, oh, they're this and they're that. And I've seen people use all sorts of inflammatory language. And it's like, well, he's this and this, so he, doesn't deserve that. And I'm kind of being cautious just because of YouTube censors or whatever. But words have consequences sometimes. And if you are speaking constantly that someone, is a word that starts with a P and they haven't been, let's say, prosecuted for that, well, somebody might go, well, if somebody's not going to protect children, I'm going to do it. So I'm going to take the law into my own hands and enact my version of justice. And I would say as well, we see it with Donald Trump too, the man who just tried to assassinate him at the White House Correspondents' Dinner had this whole manifesto about how awful Trump was and using very similar language. And you can agree with that or you can disagree with that. But I think we should all agree that the language we use should matter and should be carefully considered. I really do carefully consider my language when I speak. It'll be very apparent that I don't use generally nicknames for Harry and Meghan. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I can be a bit flippant more than I should be, but like I don't like when people call Meghan evil because I don't think she is. And when people say, "Oh, Meghan's evil. The queen said she's evil." I don't think the queen said that at all. I think that's a total misreporting or a lie. And if you call somebody evil, well, how do you respond to evil? Like, think about that. And so you have to be careful. Like, I call Harry and Meghan kind of dumb. They have made a lot of, but I try to say they've made a lot of dumb decisions. And so, like, I try to make it about the action rather than them, although Harry is quite dim. So yeah, I'm using all these caveats. But like, if I was using some other language, it could go into a very different realm. And I think it's just important to be cautious of what you say. And somebody could go out there thinking they are going to reflect and correct the miscarriage of justice that has happened around Andrew, and they would do that by killing him. That is not the answer at all. And that's deplorable, and it should be called out for such. And so I think it's very important, even when it comes to Harry and Meghan, again, using the evil example, Andrew, that they call him pedophile or a sexual offender or whatever. It's like, well, he hasn't been convicted of that. So you can say alleged or whatever and talk about the circumstances and talk about how he's a bit of a creep. I think that's perfectly fine to say. But it should also be people should also be careful, though, in the language they use in the particular instances, because I think some of that language is encouraging people to target Andrew. And I do not think that enacting violence against him is the answer. I don't think that ever is the answer. And I think we should be obviously aware enough to kind of be reflective of that. And I did see somebody too talking about Donald Trump. And yes, he uses inflammatory language too sometimes, and it's annoying when he does, and it's not something I particularly like. But you also got to think too, the mainstream media constantly calls him Hitler, calls people who, let's say, think in his way Hitler. You know, there was and there were some very serious attempts on Hitler's life, and you have to think about, like, I was actually thinking about this because I was thinking about Bonhoeffer and stuff like that, and I did ask my pastor about it because I was like, "Okay, that's such a hard thing," because as a historian, I know that all that we all know now what all of Hitler and the Nazi party did, but, like, how much did the people know at the time, and what did they believe that and that motivated them into certain actions, because they didn't have all the facts that we do now. And were they justified in the facts that they had to enact or participate in an act of potential violence and murder in order to stem a growing challenge and evil? Like, there are so many things there. So I mean, obviously rambling a little bit because it's weird, because you have to be sort of cautious with your language and everything on here. Otherwise, YouTube like docks you and stuff. And it's kind of annoying because it's like, I want to talk about like straight history. And I'm like, I feel like I have to tiptoe around it. And all that to say that be careful the language you are using. Think these are people's lives. And depending on how people call him, and people are very aggressive towards Andrew. Again, somebody could want to solve the Andrew problem utilizing a method of violence, and that is horrible, and that should not be done. And so, that's always a great reminder for everyone to think about things before they say it, especially on social media, because you don't know who's reading it. You don't know the level of crazy that they have, and you don't know, based on what they say, how some people are going to take it. And so how some people are gonna leverage it and go out and commit acts of violence in an attempt for a vigilante justice. So, that was an interesting question. Carol asked, "Do you think Andrew would have been better resettled in Balmoral? It is isolated." Possibly, possibly, but he would wanna be close to London to be close to family, but But yeah, but this can definitely be used as a case by Harry. But you also have to think as well, and this would again be a good video for comparing, this Andrew situation with the Dutch princesses and Harry and Meghan or whatever, is that there's a lot of comments and discussions you can say online around Harry and Meghan, which a lot of it is negative. A lot of it is very, very negative. But a lot of it is legitimate criticism. And so, like, how do you balance what is legitimate criticism from the crazies? There are crazies out there. But yeah. So anyways, that's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is sometimes think before typing. That's all to say, think before typing. Sorry, I just yeah, is just something that was on my mind when I saw that today. I was like, I we don't know obviously all the end to that effect, but I was like, I bet you he's been reading online and what some people have been saying about, especially about this whole, cadres and cartels of, sex trafficking and these sorts of things. And some people just don't understand how the internet can be exaggerated and these sorts of things. And they're like, I'm gonna save girls and young women by doing this. And nothing should ever be settled by violence in that way, most of the time. Obviously, there are always exceptions to the rule. But in this particular instance, you let justice take its course. If justice on this earth is not achieved, that is no longer your problem. At the end of the day, we all face our maker, we all face judgment for whatever sins we've committed, some of them grave and some of them barely minor. And I don't know what that looks like in some ways, but again, just something to consider. All right. So let's talk very briefly because I always find it from a business perspective as ever, which totally flopped out for Mother's Day. So the signature chocolate box set created for Mother's Day, created just in time for Mother's Day. It was for Mother's Day, didn't sell out for Meghan. And then we also have she actually created I double checked this because I wanted to be sure. She created a new gift box set. And what I also noticed, guys, is that when when the Mother's Day collection just wasn't going to sell, or sorry, when one of the Mother's Day options did sell out with like the extra things, all of a sudden it sold out, and then all of a sudden there were more of them because I think Meghan pulled inventory from the boxes that weren't selling and put them in this other collection. So overall, this whole collection is just it just didn't work. And I think again this shows that the bandwidth is diminishing for this brand. This brand is slowly collapsing. And I don't know if Meghan salvages it or not. But I just did want to point out, Princess Goose, this is a great calling people Hitler who've not been responsible for millions of people's death denigrates what Hitler did. Exactly. And I would say people casually use the word Nazi too without really even fully understanding it. You could ask them questions about the Nazi regime and they could not answer a single one for you. And I feel like that comes from a lot of historical illiteracy. People just don't know their history. And so it's just be very careful with that language because some people like there are very few people who get to that Hitlerian level, you could say. And that should be limited and not used flippantly. People use it way too flippantly and it causes, I think, immense damage and harm because people think, if he's like that, then I must do what other people did to attempt to stop Hitler. And that's just, again, it's just not the same at all. So anyways, what's going on? Did I have something else I was going to talk about? Let me see, guys, if I had anything else I was going to chat about real quick. I think I said that I would talk about briefly, you could say, my time at the coronation. So if you guys want to hear that real quickly, let me see if I want to see the post. What did I post? Because I forget. All right, yeah, we got most of it all done here today. But guys, if you want to hear just a little bit about the coronation, if you've never heard my spiel, I guess you could say, about it, I got there at I left my hotel, I want to say at like 4 a.m. I actually have it on my phone exactly when I left. Maybe it was 4:30. Either way, it was very, very early in the morning. I think my alarm clock went off at 3 or 3:30. Oh, and somebody wanted me to talk about Archie's birthday picture. I mean, there's not really much to state about it, but we'll get there. So I got all the way down there, and you had to walk way far around to get to the mall because it was, so packed and the security parameters and everything, and they had stands for people who got, like, tickets to wait on the celebrations or whatever, and so I walked around. I got to the other side of the street because I was on if you're looking down the Royal Mile, I was on the left side, I moved over to the right side, and I was hoping because, like, you need some place where you have some, like, kind of free visibility without people in front of you, and that's kind of the best thing, and so I found this curve, and the curve worked really well for me in the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebration, did not work well for the Coronation, and it was also weird because at about 9 AM, I wanna say, so I was there around 5 o'clock or whatever and walking around. About 9 AM, the internet went dark. So my thought process, which I understand for security reasons, is that they basically had something that, like, shut off all, cellular service, so I had 0 service. And so it was really weird because I was very close to the event, and I was also very far away because I had no clue what was happening. They did have speakers. I don't know why they didn't do video. I still don't quite know that because they did have video screens for the Platinum Jubilee, but they did not do that for the Coronation. And so we were there kind of blind, like, we didn't know what was going on. And you could hear it from the speakers, but, I had no context for the service. So I've never actually watched the service, believe it or not. I haven't had time yet to actually watch the service. And so I was like, again, it was disorienting. Like, we saw the carriage go by. I think I took picture or video. I can't remember which. I definitely ended up taking video when the carriage came back, which I kind of regret not doing it with my big camera instead of my phone. But it was just, we were kind of far away. And then, like, every cop in creation was there because we had military police, we had regular police, we had, paramedics and these sorts of things. And then as the royal party was about to go past, like, there was this 5 foot, sorry, not 5 foot, 6 foot 6 inch guy in front and this other dude with an umbrella. And I was very American. I go, can you please tell them to, like, move out of the way? Because it's like they were in our way. And I was like, I'm really far back here. I can barely see. And I was like, "You guys get primo spot, like, put your umbrella down, man." I mean, because it was raining and everything. So they did do that, so I was very American in that moment. And so we're kinda waiting, they came past, got a video of it. It's not very good quality because it was from my phone. And then, we had to after they went past, we had to stand there and wait. And if somebody had yelled gunfire, explosion, fire or whatever, or if somebody had spooked the horses, like, we were gonna get crushed. Like, it was a little bit of a scary moment there for sure. And then we you had to go down to the front. And so we finally got out. I was running to the front. Some people were, like, trying to drag their, like, tents and stuff, and I'm so glad I didn't have a tent to deal with or anything. And so I ran down, the Royal Mile, and I got to, yeah, because there was all sorts of tents, people camping out, like, I could see all of them and everything. And so there were all sorts of people camping out, and then so I got to the front, and then I had a great spot, and then I was like, they allowed the crowd to move a bit closer, and I moved too close, and I got the gate in the way. And so they came out, got a couple pictures for like 2 minutes, and then they went back inside. And then like, I was going to leave, and then Charles and Camilla came out and waved to the crowd, and that's where I got my good picture. And I was pretty proud of that. I got pictures of everybody else, but I didn't have as good a camera as I do now. So I would have gotten much better pictures now than I would have with my other camera because I had the R6 and I upgraded to the R3. And so that gave me better stuff. And so and I think the greatest saga after that point was just getting back to my hotel, which was near Victoria Station, and I couldn't get around. And I probably walked for like 2 to 3 miles, it felt like, and I've been on my feet all stinking day until I finally got to an open metro station, which was Marble Arch. So if you imagine, I walked from Buckingham Palace and he didn't get the normal route out. We had to go a different way. And I meandered. It wasn't a straight shot. I meandered quite a bit trying to find places. And I ended up at Marble Arch. So if you're aware of how long that distance is, it felt like an eternity at the time too. If you're aware of how long that distance is, it was a long walk. And I was so annoyed with the cops because they had no clue what was going on. I was like, "Is this station open?" They're like, "I don't know. Go over there." I'm like, ah. So anyways, it was a crazy, crazy morning and day. I don't know if I would do it again if I didn't have press credentials because oh my gosh, oh, that was a day. I don't know if I could do it again, guys. I'm honestly not sure if I could do it again. So, but I did get somebody to asking about the Archie birthday picture. So let's look at Megan's. Still kind of hanging around 4.5, and she's still got quite a ways to get to 4.6. And all she said this year is 7 years later, happy birthday to our sweet boy. You know, Lily and Archie out in California, somewhere. They're not holding hands. His hand is obviously going, like, in the front, and I think she's maybe holding something or got something right there. I'm not gonna spend too long analyzing the picture because I just don't find much use, but I think the suppositions that some people have put out there that, like, "Oh, this shows how close the kids are." It really doesn't. I don't think it shows at all that these kids are close. And I feel like we've seen the same picture from Harry before or a similar one, and it's just a reminder of how much hair he's lost. And they got, like, a naked woman painting in the bedroom, I guess. So, whatever. It's kinda lame. I guess, it will. And she has to have "as ever official" like the picture. It's like making it like yourself. It's just so funny. As ever must like it doesn't there. But as ever must like everything Megan does. And then Megan likes stuff on as ever. It's like so silly in a way. It's so silly. But anyways, let's go ahead. We do have some more super chats who came in. So Carol, thank you so much for the super chat here. Said Megan has weaponized her race, Blake has weaponized her sex, and Amber Heard weaponized DV. These three people have set issues back 10 years. It's a shame. Yeah, because every inaccurate claim diminishes accurate claims. And here's the thing: even when Bill Cosby was officially like accused and all the women came out, I was like, I know a couple of these women. I didn't know how many. I think I estimated like 10% were just piggybacking off the event, which was a shame, but it happens. It happens. And this is an important thing. If somebody makes an accusation, it could be true, but it also could not be true. You have to do your due diligence. The idea that you must believe every woman is a lie because it allows abuse to happen. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there who are fully willing to make an accusation if it gives them attention, money, fame, fortune, these sorts of things. People are willing to lie. And so you have to be very, very careful to jump to a conclusion. And at least when it comes to the Amber Heard situation, Johnny Depp was a lot of things, but it's like, he's just never struck me as violent. So it's like, I just didn't believe it. And when she paraded it around, I was like, "Oh, no, no, no." Because it's like, that's like, "Oh, look at my poor face. Oh, oh. Did you get the angle right? Did you see the bruise? You see the like, that's not real domestic violence. I'm sorry. That's not. Rihanna experienced it and kind of disappeared and doesn't even do much publicly anymore, really. Although I don't follow Rihanna, so what do I know? But anyways, Stephen Magnus, thank you so much for the super chat. Says Megan's autobiography in the fiction section. Yeah, there's always a part of me when I see Harry's book that I want to put it in fiction because it feels fictional. But I haven't finished reading Harry's book either. Yeah, I know I'm so bad. I need to spend time to read more. I'm hoping I have a big research project I need to do, so I need to work on it. But Sometimes, yeah. I need to get better. I was really good in Florida, and I think it's just because I brought the book with me every day, everywhere, and so anytime I had to wait for anything, I just read my book, and I need to get a much better habit of doing that because you do have to wait in other places too, and it's a chance to read and catch up. Carol, thank you so much for this super chat. Again, said only one interview in October 2021 New York Times Book Summit. Yeah. So Megan definitely she has a lot of she's going to write an autobiography, guys. She 100% is. And that article, which again I think was 100% from T Megan that we went over, just proves she has a book in the waiting that she's been working on, which I hate her writing. It's too flowery and overly she has to add 12 adjectives when one would do. And she thinks that's good writing. That's not actually good writing. I imagine a lot of her book will be like that. It'll be a slog to get through. Harry's read text messages in some way, which I'm like, oh my goodness. Carol said Prime is producing a new Crown miniseries based on Queen Sylvia. Can't wait to see it. Yeah. I want to see that as well. Very exciting. Desert Mermaid 52, thank you so much for the super chat. Said Megan has never had any black friends or boyfriends. I think she's ashamed of her heritage. I believe she has passed as white. This is just one reason people find her so inauthentic. Yeah, I do agree that when it comes to Megan, she is, I would argue, culturally white. She was raised largely by her white father. Most of the family members she actually sort of had relationships with were white. All her boyfriends have been white. All her friends, her best friends from ages ago, they're all white. So Megan's culturally white. And there's just there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think her claiming, racism and, kind of weaponizing her heritage and these sorts of things has an air of inauthenticity to it because it's not really her. She lives a completely different life than the average black woman and always has. And so for her to kind of weaponize it in that way, I just think is totally inaccurate and I think inauthentic. And I think people feel that for sure. Lizzie B gifted One World News Network membership. Why, thank you so much, Lizzie. And you also said, remember to subscribe to RNN, click join button to become a member, and hit the like button for this afternoon tea. Thank you. Yes, remember to hit the like button for afternoon tea. And Becky said, member for 33 months. It's so fun to be a member. Plus, Miss Pippa needs her bones. She does need her bone fund. Oh my gosh, guys. She is crashed out in her little bed right now. It's so cute. Here, let me see if I can get technically a picture. Oh, because this will be easier because I can't turn the camera around easily. Oh gosh, guys, she's so passed out. Let's see. There you go. Nope. There she is. She's so cute. Hold on, hide my face. Isn't she so cute? She loves that big pink fluffy bed. My mom's like, you need to throw it away. And I was like, no, she loves it. She loves that bed. All right, let's get to some comments here as well. Princess Goose says, I agree about Johnny not having a history of DV. When Amber came out of his previous partners didn't come out to support her, many times people are afraid to call out their abuser alone. I agree. When other women didn't jump on the train and stuff like that, it's just when he was doing some drugs and stuff, I think he trashed a hotel room or something like that, but we had never ever heard about him being violent towards other people. And so when she said that, I was like, that just doesn't seem right. And so right there, Lizzie B said so cute. Bobby said, aw, cute little pipster. Yeah. Yeah. Veggie Kate asked, whatever happened to As Ever cookies and crepes? If they sold out in 45 minutes, why do not keep selling them? Yeah, it's a great question. So those disappeared from the website. I want to say it was in September, and they never came back. And there was no explanation. There was no, oh, we're working on different products or something. So one of the critiques I have of As Ever, and again, guys, I like watching business. I, appreciate businesses I think are clever and smart, like Sydney Sweeney's Siren. I'm not a fan of her from doing Euphoria. I think she should have probably left that role. But anyways, the marketing I think is done pretty well for Siren, and I think it leverages itself and its spokesperson quite well. With As Ever, I don't feel like there's any communication. There is no follow-up. things are inconsistent. And, half the people following the Instagram are journalists. Half of it are journalists and or bot accounts or those sorts of things. And so it's like not all of those 800 some odd thousand people, like we obviously know that the vast majority of them are not buying. The vast, vast majority. There is a very minuscule amount, maybe 1% that are actually buying her products week after week. And so we heard initially that there were going to be like seasonal style launches. Like we had that a little bit last year. This year it's been more like holiday because we had Valentine's Day and then Mother's Day. It's just clear, guys, that Megan does not know what to do with it. She is devoid of direction, doesn't know how to handle it. And there's like nothing in particular wrong with that, but it's just kind of annoying because I'm like, you could have been so like so successful if you just had listened to other people. I don't know. But also as well, people don't like her, so that's also a mark against her. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, we have some comments for Pippa. Christina says, a very cute bed for Miss Pippa. It is. Shaz says, oh, bless. She's so sweet. She is. Lauren says she's out. She definitely is. Shaz says, you can never get rid of that bed. I know. I know. I was like, Mom, no, I can't. I can't get rid of the bed. It's her favorite bed. As evidenced by her sleeping in it quite a bit. I mean, she has multiple beds, guys. She has at least 6 beds. She has an old comforter of mine that she likes that she can sleep on. She has, I want to say 3 or 4 other like dog beds. And this bed in particular, this big pink one, is where she's hidden her treasures before. So she likes to hide things. Lauren Ferguson says, Depp's a gentle soul. Yeah, that's always how I clocked him. So it's like the domestic violence thing. As soon as she says like that doesn't sound right. And people can always surprise you. It's not to say that people can't surprise you because people can, but usually you see echoes of it. And he had been in the public eye for so long that and he had such public relationships that it was kind of easy to disprove. That's the thing too. Johnny Depp had such a long public track record that was really hard to make those type of allegations stick. Whispers of the Crown. YT says, if Meghan's life is so great, why does she want it back in? She has all these billionaire friends. They should be able to help. It's a very good question. Lauren says, he has the same birthday as my son, so I'm biased. Aw. But I like Johnny Depp. He's a fun actor, I think. Princess Goose says, I like watching true crime trials. I watched most of it, and he had so many employees and former partners who supported him. Yeah, that's amazing. Like, if people start coming out of the woodwork, then after an accusation, like you do have to base it off of whether it's true, whether it's false. But the thing is, when he had obviously such groundswell of support for people saying that's just not true, I think it reflects as well as that he generally treated people well. Here's the thing too. If you treat people well, when an accusation that serious comes up, they're even more willing to help you because you've been generally quite nice and kind to them. If you are rude and nasty to them, they either won't say anything or they may actually feed the rumors because they simply don't even like you. Just something to consider. Coastal Angel says, whisper, yes, she's living her best life. She is. Clifford said she's just a dunderhead, empty head. Meghan, yeah. I think living her best life is Pippa. Pippa's living her best life. She's got her pack now. She's very excited. Lauren says Sperry and Meghan are both the types that need accountability. Sadly, they have none. Yeah, and I think it would help them so much if they could demonstrate some personal accountability. Shaz says Meghan stated that the last 7 years have been the worst and then goes on to wish her son a happy 7th birthday. I mean, who does that? That's a great point. That's a great point. Lynn Gideon says, as ever, is like an all-white kitchen. Bland, boring, uninspired, and lacking creativity. I agree. Like, there's nothing there where I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. Like, nothing there. And I ordered some of Sydney Sweeney's stuff, and I actually like it. So that makes a big difference as well. Hot Mess says, and she needs all those beds. She does. She does. She even was laying in a blanket outside my door there before as well, a different one. So yeah, she jumps from blanket to blanket, bed to bed. depending on what she's feeling like that particular moment. Or if she's really feeling very vulnerable, she goes in her kennel. Or she's like feeling sick or something, she always goes in her kennel and hides in there. Ritz says she has a persona of being entitled to admiration because she's just the most wonderful person on earth. Nope, wrong. Yeah. Lauren says Miss Pippa living her best life. She is. She is. Ritz says watching Johnny Depp arrive in court each day and the crowds going crazy was fun to watch. It was awesome. That's pretty cool. Whisper says, did you see the article where Meghan says she wants back in with the royals? I've heard the reports on that. I don't know. Like, she doesn't really want back, but she wants the admiration that came with being a royal. She definitely wants that back. And that's just going to be hard. It's going to be really hard to get that. So I don't know what we're thinking there, but Alice says, Austrian native. Coastal Angel says, didn't Meghan complain about the last 7 years? And yet it's Archie's birthday. Yeah, Veggie Kate says, what do you think about Meghan supposedly being upset about MasterChef calling her royal in the promo? I think that's a little ridiculous. I thought that whole story was a little bit odd, to be honest, because it's like, well, like she wants desperately to be royal, and they called her Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex. Like, here's the thing. People don't know what to refer to her as because she's gone by Meghan Markle, Meghan Sussex, Duchess of Sussex, like Duchess Meghan or whatever. Like, I don't think people know where she stands. And this is part of the complication with Harry and Meghan's public life is that they're trying to, again, it's like they're trying to do all things and achieving nothing. She's trying to be all things and nobody knows what slot to put her in. That's why it would have been best for her, I think, to just go back and be Meghan Markle. That was the name recognition in the first place. Just be that and just be an actress. Like, I don't know why Jennifer Lawrence comes to my mind, but if Jennifer Lawrence, let's say she had married Prince Harry, she would have probably gone back to Hollywood and, continued her acting career, left the royal family gracefully if that's what she decided to do, and she would still be Jennifer Lawrence because she's like, well, that's what people know me as, and let's just do that. I can just do my own thing. Madeline, Princess Madeline of Sweden. And yes, we'll do a members giveaway with Min Lin because I'm having a tester test the baby kind of sides of it. But Min Lin, Madeline goes by Madeline Bernadotte. So like Meghan, I think just because she doesn't know who she is or what she wants to be, or she changes it based on the situation, is just causing a lot of confusion. Whispers of the Crown says she would have been well liked and successful if she had stayed and done things differently. I agree. Leo said, what are your personal opinion on King Frederick? I think I like him. I think he seems fun and nice. I do like going to Denmark because the Danish court has been very welcoming and lovely to me. I do have to say. When it comes though to obviously him and Mary, like I've heard different things, and obviously you had the trip to Spain that he did, where he stayed at another woman's apartment, which was very, 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 very ill-advised. But we don't know what happened, so it's like I'm holding off some judgment. It was an insanely stupid decision, but like I can't say one way or another. But I think he seems pretty cool, and he's very active, dude. That guy can run because I was there at the boat when him and Akan took off and started running, and like Frederick's in shape, man. He can run. So Lingidian says she probably chooses beds based on your location. She loves her mama. She doesn't, guys. You would be surprised. Like I would go upstairs to film and do other things, and she was just like she just wanted to stay downstairs. She's a little independent girly. Lauren says, I used to live in Florida and noticed something and told my children. In Florida, a billionaire might be walking down the beach shirtless with a beer. You never know who you're talking to. Exactly. You never know. It's those who have the big egos who need all the accoutrements. Clifford says she thinks by trying to copy Chanel and give her products the dates, which means something to her will attract customers. Yeah, I think giving the fragrances dates it would be cool if you were doing like a historical candle collection, like based off women in history or times in history or something like that, to have a date attached. I think that would be cool. But the problem with the date system in Meghan Markle's stupid candles is that, well, what dates are there left? Now you got to mind what? The Queen's birthday? Prince Philip's birthday? like, what else are you gonna mine? Diana's birthday? Like, your mother's birthday? Like, it just becomes a kinda weird. It's like, where do you go from there? It's really actually quite dumb and very limiting because every day it has to be a personal reflection to Meghan. Every product has been basically very personal to Meghan. And there's nothing, let's say, really wrong with that, but in some ways it very much limits your appealability to a broad mass market because it's like every product references you. Every product is a self-reference, and that's just doesn't work. Marjorie says it has been reported that Prince Harry may have been referring to the king's lawyers to try and find a way out divorce Meghan, but keep the children. Being UK residents would help him, not her. Cannot see that. We'll see. He still feels like he's a bit in the he's still drinking the Kool-Aid quite a bit. So Coastal Angel says, Brittany, do you think Meghan did MasterChef because Charles did it in the past? Meghan recreates all past royal things. Yeah, well, I mean, she just wants anywhere to go and anybody to host her. And she claims to be a foodie, so maybe she's trying to reestablish that, but she's just not a foodie. Laura, she likes takeout. Lauren says Meghan wants to be straight up adoration. She does. Leo Jackson says, how could Harry and Meghan redeem themselves if they would have to return to royal life? They'd have to apologize for sure. Eric Sania says Zippy can be better. Lizzie B says, yay, Midland giveaway. Yes. So it'll be these two products, the lip balm and the golden hour oil. But I've been using the facial cleanser and it is quite light. Like it's hard because it's like as an adult, I want something a little stronger, but at the same time, if you have really sensitive skin, if you want something really light, I think Midland does a good job. So yeah, I'm sort of waiting on the Midland review. I did it when I was in Sweden, but I sort of waited because I was like, because there was 4 products specifically for babies. And so I was like, I can't fully test these. So gave them to somebody else to let me know what they think. Shaz says Harry expects the family in UK to give Meghan respect. She called 52% of the UK public racist and now wants to respect. Nope. It's earned, not given. Yeah. Lynn Gideon says can't wait for the Midland review. Coastal Angel says Meghan needs to take advice that Anne Hathaway received to change her public persona. I agree. Meghan needs to change and adjust. Mama Joe says what people are not realizing that Meghan Markle is a hustler. She could have all the money in the world and she's still going to keep hustling. That's who she is, a natural born con artist. That's probably true. She can never have enough money, I don't think. Eric Sania says aspire to be tough is needy and desperate. Bobby says King Frederick did serve all the Danish military branches. Nice to see he's keeping in shape. He is. Like he was running good, man. Clifford says, has Queen Mary been back home for her father's funeral? Nothing has been reported about that. Not that I'm aware of. We haven't heard any reports on that. Leo said, Frederick is Chad. Namera says, I live in Florida, and so true. The super rich look and act like regular people. They have nothing to prove. Exactly. It's the people who have a lot to prove who are acting very high and mighty. Alice says, as ever, candle 519 is similar to Chanel number 5. Lynn says, if we knew anything about the children, maybe the candles with the birthdays would be of interest. Maybe, but I still think it's a little too on the nose. It's weird. Pearl Mokone says, Miss Pippa moving around is a mirror of her mom traveling. P.S. Hello from Lesotho. Hello. Yes, it does. She's such a sweet girl. Namera says, I don't think Harry wants to divorce Meghan. Meghan needs him still. Yes, I would agree with there. Veggie Kate says, Meghan specifically said she wants to price the gem at a point where the teen girl could buy it. Yeah, her candle, she jumped straight to the dip key prices. LOL. Yeah, she's very, very different. Suzanne says, the new king of Switzerland, not a real ring. Yeah, no, I haven't really heard of that, but there is no king of Switzerland. Switzerland has never had a king. It's always been kind of its own little oasis of different things, but it's never been a kingdom, I don't think. It's never had a king, at least. It's maybe had princes and dukes. They did have an aristocracy, but they never had a king. Namira says Harry's not going to divorce Meghan. He won't do it, and she still needs him for relevance. Eric Stania says, stop picking your nose. I'm not picking my nose. My nose itches. Allergies, man. Aaron Scout says, Meghan's change a persona as she changes religions. Very true. Namira says Anna Hathaway is still pretentious. It's in her DNA. Yeah, but maybe she's just like able to kind of well, and Lauren says here, Anne Hathaway rubs me the wrong way, but she's a good actress. That's the thing. People can overlook things when you got talent. Rit says it's astonishing how they could both be thriving after almost 8 years, and here we are. Nothing. Yeah. Anna says autobiography of lies. Curious how many times you think she's going to be sued. Probably not much. It's again very hard to sue for like defamation and stuff in the States, but it'll be interesting. Leo Jackson says, I came from a rich family, and a lot of my classmates thought I came from a very poor family. Yeah. Lauren says, Anne has talent, even though she's smug. I'll watch anything she's in. She brings some to the table. Yeah, that's so important. Clifford says she's paying all her PR companies, but she's not listening to them and has continued to fail. Exactly. Veggie Kate says Brie Larson did a good job of going away, doing theater for a while, then releasing a fun party cookbook. Going away for a while is a key to image rehab. It is. It is. And Brie as well very much changed her how she was approaching the media and stuff. She kind of recognized the game and the grift, and so she kind of changed up how she was responding. That helped too, and got people back on her side. People went from kind of hating her to being, no, she's fine. Princess Goose says my allergies are bothering me a lot too. Yeah, well, guys, we'll wrap up here in a second. Lynn Gideon said if Harry had any sense, he'd focus on genuine charity work and get 4 attorneys to start laying the groundwork for a divorce. This will seriously be a long process. I honestly think he'll be shocked by a divorce. And that maybe when he wakes up is when he finally realizes that she doesn't really care and she just filed for a divorce on him and he wasn't expecting it. Clifford said, what do you think of Andrew Lowney claiming Sarah Ferguson had an affair with Diddy? I don't think that's true. No, gosh, no. I cannot fathom P. Diddy. Like, what? Sarah? Like, that's all right. Eric Sania says, big love from England. Why, thank you. Princess Goose said, Anne Hathaway is a great actress, and so is Meryl Streep, but I don't hear great reviews on The Devil Wears Prada too. Yeah, I didn't see honestly, The Devil Wears Prada just like doesn't do that much for me, or never did that much for me. I mean, I watched it when it came out, but Lauren says, what's the weather there, Pearl? Aw. Alice says, Brittany, a suggestion from your grandmother, keep your handkerchief out your desk to rub your nose. I have allergy issues too. Yeah, I'm trying to be like better about figuring it out, but like sometimes, man, the nose itches. Princess Goose says, Blake has been called a mean girl and it's hard to get past. Megan's bullying claims have really tarnished her rep. They did. I can't unsee that. Gideon says, Veggie's Kate says, I was wondering about Anna Delany's story about Diddy being friends with benefits too. It was so weird sounding. I honestly don't believe that. I personally, I don't believe it. That's just me. That's just too, he would not find her attractive. And I cannot see him going for Sarah Ferguson at all. But that's just me, guys. So we'll go ahead and wrap that up here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully, we'll see what happens over the weekend. But now I have to work on getting all this mess kind of organized, which you can't see the mess, thankfully. And I got to figure out kind of what to do with this wall space back here because I'm just not loving it. So we got to think of something. Although very excited to have the light back. If you can't read it, it says Royal News Network and then Royal Fashion News as well. So guys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. And I shall speak to you again very soon. All right. Bye.